Hey friends out there in YouTube land, Robert Hamm here with Robert Hamm Photography. Today we're going to talk about what makes an image good. And if you find any of these videos helpful, if you like them, don't forget to hit that like button, a thumbs up, and subscribe. Helps me grow the channel and continue to bring you great content. So this is kind of a part of the Q&A series that I've been doing recently, but no one specifically asked this because I have got this question a lot over the years. And I think that there are a couple things that make an image a good image. First, has to do with getting rid of the subjectivity of what art is and whether or not you like a particular painting or particular work. You know, that's subjective. That's how you feel about it. Whether or not you like postmodernism or modernism, or if you prefer something more traditional, if you like cubism, if you like impressionism, you know, those are preferences. But no one can say that it's not art. And photography is the same kind of way. So when I sit back and make a contract with a client or something like that, I've got a set of rules that help them understand how it is I'm going to determine what a good image is. And so that takes three parts. And this is the first part. You have to have all three of these in order to have what I would consider to be a deliverable image. I said good earlier, but good's more of a feelable image. We're talking about deliverable images moreover. And the first thing is, I think that you have to have a proper color balance. You have to have skin tones that look normal in order for it to be a deliverable image. The second thing is you have to have proper composure. So you can't just Dutch tilt everything and consider it a good deliverable image. It doesn't work that way. You know, if the angle, if the composition doesn't work, you know, that's not going to be a deliverable image. And then finally, you have to have an image that is exposed properly. Hey, you can't go around giving underexposed or improperly exposed images and consider those deliverable images. You have to have all three of those things in order to have a deliverable image, and that doesn't matter if it's good or not. Good or bad is subjective once again, and good or bad actually has a different criteria as far as I'm concerned. So let's move on from deliverable image criteria and head over to what a good image is. And actually, I figure a good image must have three things. And remember, I'm a portrait photographer, so this deals mostly with people, maybe not landscape. So if you're a landscape photographer, determining what a good image is for you as far as subjectively, because we're now talking subjectively, may be a little bit different. However, a good image for me has to have one thing borrowed from the previous category, and that is proper exposure. If you don't have a good exposure for whatever type of image you're trying to deliver, there's not going to be any good. The second thing that you're going to need is you're going to need to have subject separation. Remember, being a portrait photographer, I want to separate the subject from the background. So I'm always in search of some bokeh, right? I want that bokeh in order to help draw focus to what it is I'm trying to tell in the story. And the last thing is that a good image needs to have is actually to fill the frame with your subject. So often do people miss composition of filling the frame with what it is they're trying to take a picture of, and that's the easiest thing to fix, but it's the hardest thing to learn because many people don't think about form and symmetry when they're composing, and they just start shooting all willy-nilly, and that's the problem. Hey, my sweetheart, love her to death, bless her heart. You know what they say, she can't take a picture to save her life. But that's something she could learn if she was more interested in it. My son Robert absolutely loves taking photos, and even at 13, he can take a better picture than most out there. Specifically, his compositions are awesome. So those are things that can be learned. But let's go a step further. These are three things that are required. We were talking about what a good image is, but let's actually add some names to them. Poor. If you only have one out of the three subjective things, you have a poor image. If you have two out of those three subjective things, you have a good image. If you have three out of those subjective things, you have an excellent image. So once again, if you have a well-composed image that separates the subject from the background, that focuses on the subject, and is also exposed properly, I have what I believe to be then an excellent image. Both of these categories are spelled out in the contract that I can help identify to my clients what type of images I will be delivering. That way it allows me to set expectations, but it also allows them to recognize who has the authority to determine what a deliverable image is, or even say what a good image is. And that's important to have that spelled out in the contract because just like doctors, you're not a doctor, so you don't go to the doctor and tell them how to diagnose you. You're not a mechanic, so you don't go to the mechanic and tell them how to fix your car. They're not a photographer, so they shouldn't be telling you what's good or bad. You should have that set out. and then your expectations will be much better met. And finally, let's talk about one other thing. Let's talk about how this works when you're actually working with another photographer or when you're working with yourself and striving to get better. If you don't have some kind of metric in place, whatever that metric is, you have a very difficult time setting a bar that can then be achieved and superseded. If not, then you're just kind of mulling around, and you should be your own worst critic. And that's a very important thing. You should always seek to improve your photography. You should always seek to be better. You should always feel like there's somewhere that you can improve, and there always will be. When I work with additional photographers, I do have a couple that I work with. I'm real hard on the type of work that they develop and that they bring to me. That's very important, because if someone's going to photograph with me, we have to be on the same page. And the number one thing about getting people on the same page is setting an expectation. And just like the expectations with the client, those two different categories, one is the technical category and one is the subjective category, they all have to be met to have not only a good image, but a deliverable image as well. Guys, these are just my thoughts, but don't get me wrong. I like a nice image. It doesn't matter where it comes from. If it can match those criterion, then I like it. Those are the things that I look for. When I scan people's Facebook or when I scan people's Flickr or Instagram, I'm looking for those types of things. And when I see an image that speaks to me, it doesn't matter if it came from a cell phone or a 1DX or something. It's a good image is a good image. And that's how I feel about it. If you feel the same way, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to share your stories down there. Let me know how you look at image and if you think it's all subjective or if there's a little bit more of a hard-nosed criteria that you use. Guys, I'm Robert Hamm with RobertHammPhotography.com. You can catch me over on Twitter and Instagram, where you can find all this cool work with these Instax photos, which I love. And don't forget to follow me over here on Facebook as well. If you didn't know, you just facebook.com/RobertHammPhotography. Guys, I want to thank you for watching, and as always, I'll catch you on the flip side.